Frances Fisher is known for her roles in the Oscar-winning films Titanic and Unforgiven. When she was 19 years old, she was doing community theater in Orange, Texas, a community of under 25,000 people, and there weren't many connections to the acting world in Orange, Texas, but there was one, and that was enough.
John Holland was a New York actor who came to Orange, Texas to retire because that's where he was from. We were all very impressed that a New York actor was coming into our little community. And he saw all the plays, and after one, and there was nothing to do after the theater, went dark. We would usually go to somebody's home and have something to eat and drink and whatever. And we were sitting on a couch, and he said to me, you can get out of this town. You've got talent. Really? He said, yeah, you could actually have a career as an actress, and I can help you if you want.
With John's help, Frances won an apprentice at the Barter Theater in Virginia, and this led her to an opportunity in New York, but not as an actor, as a live-in nanny for the daughter of another actor. But the reason she was there didn't matter. She had made it to New York and was going to use every spare moment she had and put every extra dollar she had towards chasing her dream. And that's exactly what she did. When she learned that there were
3 acting teachers that were the primo ones, Sandy Meisner, Stella Adler, and Lee Strasburg. And I researched all of them, and I thought, I cannot afford to study with all 3. So from what I understood back then, in my early 20s, is that Lee Strasburg and Stella Adler were prime in what they were teaching, but were at opposite ends of the spectrum. Well, let me study with both at the same time, and I'll be able to take from both of them what I need and go on.
How were Stella and Lee different?
In very broad strokes, my understanding is that what Lee was teaching was a very personalized way of creating a character, which is finding a connection between your own experience and magnifying it to be the character. There were a lot of exercises that we would do, like sense memory exercises and effective memory and coffee cup and sensory things like that, all very connected to your inner life. Stella, on the other hand, said, use your imagination, which also Lee did too, but it was just a different approach. Stella said, put the shoes on, then you'll know how the character walks. Understand the circumstances, understand the political situation, understand what religion is your character, if any. Where does she live? What does she do?
But the thing is, because these 2 great acting teachers had different philosophies, they didn't always see eye to eye. And Frances learned that the hard way. She took a scene study class with Stella, where everyone in the
audience at school would watch people do their scene, and Stella would then critique it, give suggestions. I decided that I was going to work on Romeo and Juliet. So I worked on the famous balcony scene. It was my turn up. I was in my flowing nightgown. I walk out onto the stage. I smell the jasmine. I look up and I see the moon. And I walk over to the balcony. And I go, Romeo. And she goes, stop. I can smell a Strasburg student at 20 paces. Get off the stage. Seriously, she did that. And I just shriveled. And I skulked off behind to change my clothes. And as I was changing my clothes backstage, Stella proceeded to do the monologue. Romeo, oh, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? Oh my God, that was one of the most horrifying experiences I ever had.
But in the end, Frances
became friends with her. I redeemed myself. And then I've come to find out that she was always very rough on young women because she didn't want young women to just go on their looks. She wanted them to work hard.
And work hard is exactly what Frances did. It never came easy to her. In fact, when she finally made the move out to California after 14 years in New York, she
slept on a blow-up mattress in my brother's living room in Burbank.
But she got herself an agent, and he sent her a script for a
Clint Eastwood movie. So I'm reading the script, I'm going, God, this is such a great role. Oh my God. It's like, yes, I want to audition for it. And my agent said, at the time, well, no, that's going to Bernadette Peters. Go, why? It's already cast? Why are you giving this to me? Well, no, you're playing her little sister with a part that big. So I went toward the leading character because that's what my training was, and it was a good role for me. I thought, well, I got to start somewhere. So I ended up doing that little bitty sister role.
Hollywood's a hard business to break into, and once you finally break in, it doesn't get any easier. Even after her standout supporting role in Titanic, she didn't work
for a year because every offer I got was to play the snooty mother of the daughter who didn't want her to date the boyfriend. I mean, it was just so unimaginative. So I did not work for a year.
When reflecting on her career, Frances realized that she didn't
fight hard enough for the leading roles. I just took what came to me. I just thought, oh, well, maybe I'm not good enough. I wanted to be a respected actress instead of just saying, I want to be a movie star, because movie stars are now the ones that are getting all the parts. You've got to have that cachet in order to get cast, because it's such a numbers business now, more than it ever was, I think. I mean, there are still independent movies that, where people will take a chance on newcomers. I'm hardly a newcomer. I'm never giving up. I love acting too much. Yeah, I think I didn't aim high enough. I didn't have the guidance. There was no book. And also I had people teachers saying, don't go to the parties. That's not where it's going to happen. Keep doing your work. Keep doing your work. And that's what I focus on, work.
And while there is something to be admired about the fact that for Frances, it was never about the accolades, it was only ever about the work, the thing is,
the accolades get you more work. That's what I finally figured out. You know what I mean? People want to work with winners. And also people like, I don't know, oh, that person won an Academy Award. Let's pair that one up with the other Academy Award winner. Even if they have no chemistry, make a movie because we're going to make millions of dollars.
In a world that's hyper-focused on the numbers, we're losing serendipity, the magic that arises from moments unplanned.
I don't know where the luck happens. Running into somebody at Joe Allen's and go, hey, you know what? You'd be right for this thing I'm doing. Call my office and write it down on a napkin. That's the way it was in the 70s, I got a job with Henry Jaglom just sitting at Cafe Central one night at his table with a bunch of people. He goes, I'm about to go into pre-production and I need a production manager. Does anybody know? I go, I know. I lied. I said, if you give me a part in your movie, I'll do the production managing.
Whether you knew what you were doing or not didn't matter, because in New York, you could just make it happen.
Casting offices were very accessible. You just walk in and go up the elevator to the floor and you knock on the door. I was so naive when I got to New York. I didn't even know I had to have an agent. I would walk into casting offices and advertising agencies with my headshot because my boyfriend was a good photographer, so I had headshots. And I would say, I want to do a commercial. Can you help me? And the girl would look at me and you need to have an agent and you need to have an appointment in this. It's like, oh God. I didn't know. There was nothing, there were no books that said how to get into the business. I'm sure there are now. I'm sure there are a lot of books. I don't know how helpful they are, but I could have used some help. But by hook or by crook, I just followed what was in front of me.
And being in New York, she wasn't going to do it alone.
There was so much going on, so many little theaters, and there was a place where we would all congregate, Jimmy Ray's and Joe Allen's, which was in the theater district. It's where everybody would go after they'd seen a play or been in a play. Bonds were formed. It was a great time, and that doesn't exist in Los Angeles, because when I came out to Los Angeles in 1988, it was a desert. There was no place where actors congregated. And I feel bad for actors starting out here because one feels so isolated. I had the good fortune of starting my career in New York, and I'm very, very grateful for that.
There's just something special about New York that you don't get anywhere else.
I bartended in the theater district. There was a stagehand who would always come in during intermission to have his little whiskey. And he said, "Frances, are you available at such and such night?" And why? He said, "Because there's one seat available, front row. Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, and Duke Ellington are having a night in the theater. Do you want to go?" Oh my God. So little old me got to sit in the front row, kind of to the side, not center, but I got to see them live. The energy on stage and the energy coming back from the audience, I'd never heard music like that before. That is a memory I'll never forget. That's New York.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe. And if you want to listen to my near 2-hour-long interview with Frances, you can find it in Season 2 of the Artwell podcast, where we study the life of James Cameron to find lessons that are relevant for modern creatives.